early 90s there, graduated in the early 90s. And then I went and worked for a consulting engineering firms and surveying firms, and was primarily in subdivision design and building layout and things of that nature. So a little bit different avenue than Dino, but we did both graduate from the Construction Engineering Technology program. I think that's all, Dino.
Yep. So when we, the stuff that we're teaching you is the same stuff that we learned. This program has been around for over 50 years. The quality of our program is second to none, we believe. We have graduates all over the place working who are, in the industry. If you go around anywhere in Ontario, you're going to find grads from our program that are working in the industry. And so, we're taking what we learned, and we're taking the curriculum that served us so well and got us jobs in the industry, and that's what we're using. We keep refining it. We keep trying to update as times go on, but we are, this is tried and true. We know that this works because we both had careers because of the education that we had in this program. The workbook that you have, it's not available yet. And we will make it available the workbook we are going to make available today. We just haven't done it yet, so we'll show you that in a minute. And again, you're going to get it through Blackboard. So you go on to Blackboard, but what I want to be careful that you understand is I don't want you to use Blackboard for your workbook. What I want you to do is download that workbook and store it on your laptop, okay? I don't want you to access it through Blackboard, because we could have a day when we lose our internet. And if that's the case, you'll lose your workbook. So I want you guys to download it, save it somewhere, make sure you know where to save it. And when we go through classes, when we're talking about things, you can actually go into the workbook and use the Adobe PDF comment tools, and you can write little comments in there. You can highlight things. So you can make this as interactive as you wish. But the key is to download a copy of the workbook. Don't just access it through Blackboard. Construction estimating, what is it? Construction estimating is counting or measuring of quantities. And the quantities are, to start with, it's material. Okay, when we do a construction project, we can't figure out how much labor or equipment we need for a project unless we know how much material we need to supply for that project. If someone asks you how long does it take to pour concrete, your first question would be, well, how much concrete? So our job, what this class is about, is learning to read construction drawings, interpret them, and understand how to do the math required to calculate quantities of material. And we'll often refer to a QTO, or a quantity takeoff. Okay, that's the first step in doing an estimate. Once that's complete, then we start putting prices against that estimate, that quantity takeoff, and those prices turn a quantity takeoff into an estimate or a bid. Okay, and we aren't going to be doing any pricing this year. We have a lot of work to do to learn the whole range of estimating of quantity takeoffs first. When we get to our third year, that's when we'll start putting prices to projects. When does this job happen in the industry? Well, it's a simple answer. Anytime there's any money exchange on a construction project, someone has used the skills of construction estimating. Okay, imagine you're going to build a house, and the builder comes to you and says, I'll build this house for you, and you say, go ahead, get started. The first question you're probably going to ask is, how much do you want to build this house? So an estimate has to be done to start the project. But halfway through the project, if you decide to make a change, if you decide that you want your living room to be a little bit larger than what you had originally thought, and you go to your contractor and say, we want to make, instead of being a 10-foot by 12-foot room, we'd like this to be 20 foot by 12 foot. Your next question is going to be, how much is that going to cost me? So anytime any money is changing hands on a construction project, someone is doing an estimate. Someone has to calculate the changes to the materials and the labor and the equipment costs, and then turn that into a dollar value for someone to use it. So if you guys are interested in being in the construction industry and you're involved with projects, every single project has an estimate. Every single change to every project requires an estimate. What that means is there's great opportunities for you to get a lot of work in this industry. Who does the work? We're as far as this type of work, and I want to be clear, you're in college and you're learning the theoretical side of this thing, but some of you might have come from the trades. Some of you might have worked in industry and are coming back to college. Tradespeople are excellent estimators. They have an understanding of job sites. They have an understanding of the work techniques that are required. So if you're coming back to us from industry and you have some trade or industry experience under your belt, that's an excellent thing to have when it comes to learning construction estimating. Okay, you're in college grads who are learning what you're learning, the curriculum you're learning how to draw, learning how to read prints, you're learning how to do building code and estimating. You're perfect for this type of job. And every contractor out there somehow in one capacity or another hires an estimator, whether he does it himself or he has people doing it for him. But our job function fits into every builder's requirements. So there's lots of jobs for construction estimators. I don't want where are we? Okay, so course attendance. Let's talk about this. Every single class that you're in, we take attendance. Okay. We I have a policy that when I'm going to be here, I'm hoping and expecting that you're going to be here, and Denise the same way. You don't get anything out of this class if you don't attend it. Now, to add to that, we are going to teach everything in a synchronous setting, and that means that we have class scheduled on Monday at 10:30 and Wednesday at 11:30, and you can count on us being here at that time. Okay. What that means, though, is that we're not preparing a lecture on the weekend and then just posting it to Blackboard and you watch it whenever you feel like watching it. The lesson doesn't happen until those times, okay? And we're going to be here, we're going to be present with you during this time. That's there are some situations where you might have other classes that are what we call asynchronous, and that means that the lecture might be posted online and it's up to your discretion whenever you want to watch it throughout the week. I think maybe some of your English or math classes might be on there. So that's okay, but for us, that doesn't work. And we're not just basing that on what Denise and I prefer, we're basing that on what our students tell us in their feedback, that they want us present here with them. They want to be able to ask questions, have questions answered during this time period. And so we're always going to teach you in a synchronous setting, which means if you're not here, you're missing out. Now, that being the case, we will record the lessons, and you can go back and watch the lesson again afterwards. So if for some reason you cannot be here, and that's, there might be very legitimate reasons why you can't some days, we understand that. The lesson will be recorded and you can watch it. If you're here for the class and when it's over, you're saying, you know, I'm not really sure about a couple things, you can always go back and rewatch the lecture as well. Okay, so that's going to be available to you, but I don't want you to look upon that as a substitute for showing up for class, because there's way more that you're going to gain by being here and participating in the class than you ever would by watching the lecture afterwards. Now, as far as tests and quizzes, you must be here for tests and quizzes. And in those situations, we will set up another meeting group in Microsoft Teams. And in that group, you will have your cameras on. You don't have to have, we don't want your microphones on, but you will have your cameras on. We don't require the cameras to be on in this setting in Blackboard Collaborate, but when we're having a test, you have to have your cameras on, okay? Course policy. So there's a course policy, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. There are 4 things that you have to do with this course policy. First thing is you have to download a copy. I want you to have a copy on your computer. I want you to read it, and we're going to talk about a couple things that are in there, but I want you to read this thing. Don't just pass it over. And you can sign it digitally. Okay, you can use the whatever digital means we have. It's a PDF file. You can sign it, and you have to send it back to us. We'll get to that, Hernan. You have to send it back to us. And I'm making this stipulation. It must be handed in before I can mark your assignments. So bottom line is, if you want to be marked, we have to have this agreement that's present in this course policy. And let me just, I'll get to the course policy in a minute because it's included in your workbook. When we open up your workbook, we're going to see it there. Okay. To answer Hernan's question, yes, our tests and quizzes are all open book. Okay. I know that sometimes teachers don't like to have an open book test or quiz. Honestly, I feel like I'm giving you a lot of resources that I want you to be able to use. And in a test or a quiz situation, part of what I want to see is that you can use the resources that are available to you to solve a problem. So I want you to use the resources that we make available to you, like the workbook. So we do have everything in an open book scenario. Course policy, again, we'll get to it in a minute. Blackboard. You're on Blackboard right now. Look at the bottom phrase here. You must be on Blackboard daily. Okay. This is our way of communicating with you. This way, what we will do is we will put an announcement up every week. Denise, it's usually Sunday about 1 a.m., I think, or Saturday. But Saturday or Sunday, you will get an announcement from us that tells you what's going to be happening this week. Okay? We want you to use Blackboard for email, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. You will submit all of your assignments through Blackboard, and especially now in this online environment, we have no way of getting your work in a hard copy format. We don't want you to email your work. We want it needs to be submitted through Blackboard. All of your quizzes and tests will happen on Blackboard. Any information we want to give you, we have to do it through Blackboard, and that's the place where you can go and find out what your marks are. Denise and I are pretty diligent in making sure that your marks get posted in a timely manner. So if you hand in work today, we make a commitment to you that in most cases, we will have that mark finished by next week at the same time. Okay, that gives us 1 week to do all the marking, and there's 79 of you, so that's a lot of marking on our part. But we can commit to trying to get that marks to you back as soon as possible. So if you want to know how you're doing, Blackboard is the place that you have to go. I can't tell you how many times we have situations where students come to us near the end of the semester and say, am I passing? And we just kind of really have a hard time with that, because when I was a student, man, I wanted to know what my marks were. I wanted to know, where I'm at. How am I doing so far? And we, we make that available to you. It's up to you to look at it. And when we set up assignments and things like that, we will have a calendar. And there is a calendar in Blackboard that's going to help you look at it and find out what's coming up for the week and the month, really.
Dino, can
Yep.
we just a couple of the questions? People are trying to download the workbook, and a couple of the questions it's coming up as it's telling me that I need Adobe Acrobat to download. And yes, in order for you guys to see the application, you will have to download the from Apps Anywhere, the Adobe. I think though also, if you can you right click on it, Dino? You can do save link as and save it as a PDF, and that should work as well.
So I'll just save this to my desktop. Okay, so since we're at the workbook, let's look at it. You saw what I just did. I just downloaded the workbook and saved it to my desktop, and I opened it. And this is what you see. This should be what you see. First year, if I double click first year, I'm going to see two things. I'm going to see the Civil 1130 Workbook 2021. That's the one we're going to be working from. And there's another one here called Self-Study Technical Math. Okay, we'll just click on the workbook. When I double click it, or sorry, when I click it, now the workbook is open here. But if I want to really be able to use it properly, I want to come up to the right-hand side here and click Open Document. Okay, I don't want to just use it in the window. I want to actually open the document. And what that allows me to do is to use some of the Adobe tools. If I want to put this to one page, I can put it to one page, and etc. So this allows me also to use the comment tools that are in Adobe. Okay, if I want to click on the comment tools, it gives me the opportunity to, to draw on here, or to make put text notes, that type of thing. Okay. So I'm just going to I'm going to close that for a second. And I'm going to look at the other thing that's in our workbook, and that's this thing called Self-Study Technical Math. What is this? Construction Estimating, Fundamental Technical Maths Self-Study Program. Well, exactly what it sounds like. It's a self-study program. Okay, it is. It's Denise and I addressing the concerns that sometimes show up where mathematics can be your mathematics skills can sometimes be lacking. Okay, and it's not necessarily anyone's fault. But the fact is, some of you in your high school career maybe didn't cover some of this math. It's not difficult math, you probably have, but and some of you may be coming back in from industry, are looking at it saying, I really need a refresher on the math. So this is a book that we put together to help you to just sort of get reoriented with the math. And it just covers all kinds of simple stuff. Adding feet and inches, some things like that. So there's a lot in here. And what we do is there are going to be some modules on Blackboard, but you can actually, I'm going to scroll down to the end of this first chapter here, and there are exercise questions, some questions in here. And you can actually answer these in Blackboard and then get marked on it. And you see how you did with the answers. Okay. So it goes through some of the basic math. It moves into plane figures, so areas, calculating areas of figures. So all the formulas are in here. And there's an exercise. And then it'll move to, just keep scrolling down. There's lots of questions in it. Then it'll move to calculating volumes of shapes with the formulas as well. So, so it's a really good self-study guide. You're not getting graded on this thing, so you can use this as many times as you want to. You can refer to it. It's a really good resource for you to go find formulas and things like that. But we're not grading you on it. That's why we call it self-study. It's you have to use this on your own. Yes, Denise, did I go too fast?
Dino, can you just walk back through like opening the workbook and then showing them how to get to that location? So when they download the file and they open up the file at first,
so when you open it up, we're here. You've got this basically a blank screen, and on the left you see first year, resources, and videos. Okay, you double click first year and it takes you into two books. One is the workbook and one is the self-study guide that I was just opening up for you. If we go back, the resources, we'll double click that one. It has a few things in, and this is the first one is this course policy that we were talking about. A couple of dictionaries and some estimate masters. So we'll talk about those in a minute.
I think what some people are having problems with is that they can't get the Adobe to open up. So some of them are having a problem with file type not supported. And I think some computers don't have the Adobe app on it.
Oh, are these our laptops?
Yes. So the Adobe app has to be downloaded from Apps Anywhere. Okay, can somebody confirm to me that Adobe is on Apps Anywhere? Emma did. Okay, so the Apps Anywhere, you have to download that first, and then you should have no problem getting this link. Sometimes it does take a while. Okay, so sometimes downloading it does take a few minutes, so we have to be patient with that. I mean, if it's taking hours, then there's definitely a problem. It might take 3 or 4 minutes.
And you're going to need Adobe for everything. So
yeah, so make sure you have to download from Apps Anywhere the Adobe. If the file is not supported, that's because you don't have Adobe loaded onto your laptop. Okay, again, the Adobe does not have, the laptops do not have Adobe downloaded locally installed. So you have to download it from Apps Anywhere.
okay, so it's, well, it is available on Apps Anywhere. Do I have Apps Anywhere on here that I can show them? Is Apps Anywhere in our homepage, Denise?
Sorry, Dino, I was talking there with my microphone turned off.
Oh, okay.
Apps Anywhere it's from the NC portal.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to move forward, guys. I'm not asking you to read the book right now, but you need to get Adobe to work, and you'll be able to jump into the book. But for now, you're fine to just sort of watch along with what I'm doing here. Okay. And so let's just talk about a couple things. The first thing that we did mention was that course policy. So under resources, there's something called course policy. And these are the program policies for the construction and civil engineering technician programs. Again, I want you to open that. I want you to read through it, and I want you to make sure that you understand what's in here. But I want to, before that, I want to point out some things that I really believe that you need to know. The first is this late submission policy. Okay, so let's just talk about that for a second. Assignments are due prior to the date and time specified. So if we say that class starts at 10:30 on Monday, and the assignment is due prior to start of class on Monday, then at 10:29, your assignment can still be submitted. At 10:30, it's technically still 10:30, but at 10:31, it is no longer 10:30. Yes, Griffin, question. You have your mic on, Griffin? You can ask a question if you want.
Okay. Maybe it's accidental.
Yeah, it might have been a slip. So that seems pretty harsh, right? At 10:30, it's okay. At 10:31, it's not okay. Why do we do that? We're in a the construction industry works on this type of a deadline. Okay, when an estimator does an estimate and the company submits a bid or a tender for a project to try to get an order, there's a time and a date specified. And at 1 minute after that time, as soon as it's not 10:30, as soon as it goes to 10:31, the submission ability stops. Okay, and if you walk into the place and hand in your work and you're just 1 minute late, you literally get turned away at the door and you have to go back and you don't get to submit that work. So it's an industry where that's the type of deadlines that we deal with all the time. So our job to serve you well is to get you used to that situation and help you to learn to work within those parameters. Okay, so literally in industry, if you are 1 minute late, your submission is rejected. Okay, and if that was a $10 or $15 million project and you might have had the lowest price, it won't matter because they will not accept your tender. We're not going to be that harsh. So we are going to be a little bit nicer, and we're going to say is this: when your work is late, there's a penalty that's applied to it, and we are going to reduce the possible grade that you could receive by 50%. Okay, so if you were to get 16 out of 20, you would get 8 out of 20. All right, and we want you to, and the purpose of this course policy is for us to understand that we're working together under these conditions. All right. Now, I want to point out also that sometimes there could be a submission where we'll make the stipulation that late submissions will not be accepted. That'll be just like in industry. If you're 1 minute late, you're rejected. In which case, if that happens, and we'll tell you far in advance, and that's not going to happen for first year work. Well, we'll tell you in advance, but in that case, there will be no grade if you don't submit it on time. Okay. Now, we're understanding that life happens, and if there is ever a situation in which something has happened to you, you've been in a car accident on your way to school and you can't submit on time, you can let us know. If you are sick, if you're in the hospital, you obviously can't submit your work on time. You need to tell us that that's happening. Okay. So we are not unsympathetic to situations that could happen, but some situations are avoidable, and We're not on campus yet, but when we are on campus and you get a winter day and it's snowing and it's taking a little bit longer to get to school, that's not an acceptable reason for not handing your work in on time. Okay, when we get into class, Denise and I will be there. We'll make sure we leave home in enough time to get to class and be there on time. We expect the same of you. So if there are legitimate reasons why you can't submit, we do accept those, but there's a limited range of what's acceptable in that. Okay. Minimum submission standards. So I want to bring this up as well. In the construction industry, attention to detail is critical. Okay. At a very minimum, you must list what the project is, the assignment number, the completion dates, and the complete date and the complete name must be submitted. Why am I taking such a hard stance on that? Well, because in our industry, if someone were to submit a tender and they submit it on time and they don't have the date on their tender, they will also be rejected. If you submit a tender and you have put the wrong name of your company, in our case, it's your personal name, but in industry, if you put the wrong name of the company, if you misspell the name, your tender could be thrown out. Okay, these are legal situations in which if you haven't, completed a contract to the letter of the contract, it's null and void. If any of you have ever had a speeding ticket, and you go home later and you look at the ticket and you happen to notice that the police officer put the wrong date on the ticket. He put 2020 instead of 2021 for the year. You know what's going to happen. You're going to not have to pay that ticket because that ticket with the wrong date is considered invalid. And the same thing happens in our industry. Okay, if you submit a tender and you left out something as simple as the date, your tender is invalid. And so we're going to try to condition you to take care of those details. All right. Chase, this is the course policy, and it's in the workbook. And this is the item that I said I want you guys to download it, read it, and sign it, and then send it back to us. Okay. So when I talk about that document, this is the document I'm talking about. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of points of what you're reading in here so you understand. And basically what we're saying is this is a contract between you and us. We're setting the terms and conditions now, and you're acknowledging that you understand that those are valid and you accept them. Okay, and that's why we want you to send it back to us, because we don't want you coming back to us later on and say, well, that's not fair that you gave me a 0. We're going to say, we made that very clear, and it is fair. The one of the most famous sayings of Denise, a good friend and mentor for Denise and I, one of our retired teachers, when a student would walk in and he would submit work late, and he would get marked down 50%, and the student would inevitably say, that's unfair. And he liked to say, no, that's not unfair. It's unpleasant, but it's not unfair. And that's how we look at it. What else is in the resources? There is a dictionary of civil engineering. It's actually a dictionary of architecture and construction. It's a very big document with lots of information. There's another illustrated dictionary from a company called RS Means. We found these online for free, and so we put them into our workbook, and there's a ton of information in these things. So if you're ever looking for a definition on something, these are the places to go. The estimate sheet masters, we'll leave that for another day. We're going to get to that. We're just not ready to take a look at those yet. Yes, Denise.
just double checking, where does the signed policy get uploaded to? I believe we have a link in Blackboard. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
And maybe we can move to that in a minute.
Yep. Is it? Maybe not in. Sorry. Maybe in assignments. No, not yet. We'll have to check it, Denise. I just have it in. I've got the student view right now. Course info. Okay, let's find it. Course information. Thanks, guys. So, course policy upload. This is the place where you can upload that file. While we're in course information, what's in here? There's a course outline. That's a link to an outline on Blackboard. We're going to talk about the TLP, the Teaching and Learning Plan, in a minute. And in case you don't get it from the Blackboard or from the workbook, here's another copy of that course policy. Okay. Other items in here: copyright information and the library. Library is not much good to you unless you're on campus, but we will be able to use it at some point in time. Okay. So going back to the workbook, I have a section in here called videos. And there's a few items in here. Bluebeam, you're not going to use quite yet till you get to third year. Plan Swift, when asked, these are things that are going to happen in third year. But there is one section in here that I'd like to point out to you. It's called Essential Craftsman. And what we need to do is we need to come in and click Open Document. And what that's going to do is take us to the web page of an excellent video series that is available to us. And there's going to be a lot of things that we will talk about in class, and we'll make reference to different terminology, and we'll talk about different things. And we wish we could take you to a job site and actually show you these things happening. We'll do our best to show you pictures and draw things for you, but there's nothing that really replaces actually seeing it. And so there's a series in here called it's a Spec House series. It is extremely well documented, extremely well narrated, and there's a ton of great information. And the video series keeps going, but there are, I think right now, probably about 117 or 118 videos in this series. 117 videos. So you can see it's gone everywhere it's gone the entire project from start to finish, from just looking at property and deciding to build a house on it to finishing the house. So I'll open this one up quick for you just so you can see what we're talking about. And it's a bit slow in loading. We'll wait just a second here. There we go. We're not going to wait forever, but I just want to give you a feel for what these are all about. It's an excellent video series, and I've put the link in because I really think there's, let's exit this. I really think that there's tremendous value for you guys. We just can't give you this kind of exposure to an actual construction project, but we're going to get to sections where you'll find this is really, really helpful for you. Now, in your first year workbook, there is also a section in here where I have, let me just switch my view here. There we go. So I also built a section right into the workbook where you can click, and what I've done is I've sort of linked some of the work that we're going to be looking at to some of the videos that correspond to that. So, you can come in here, you can click on any one of these, and it should take you to the website to watch that video. Okay, so it's kind of connecting some of our actual coursework to the videos that will back it up. And it's really worth your while to supplement what we're teaching you by going to these sites and actually looking at these things.
Oh,
there we go.
We're here with a young man that I'm very proud of. I've known him for 23 years. This is Travis Robinson. Hi. Now, I want you to trust me when I tell you I've seen some changes in his character from the time he was 12.
We'll scroll forward and see what he's talking about here.
Pay for the sidewalk. You also want to make sure that you understand any other obligations that the developer has that he may be pushed onto you, the lot owner, for a future date. A lot of developers do that. You can look at the plat, you can look at your closing documents, deeds, deed restrictions, just the drainage to the curb lines, and then the water comes down the curb lines. You can see on this road up here, water would go to the edge of the curb line and go into the gutters, and then eventually into the storm drains on each side. This storm drain takes all of the drainage that comes down the culverts and goes right to the river or any other body of water that's nearby. That same river is the one that you might play in, or you might pull your drinking water out of. So when a developer takes some raw land and develops it for buildable lots, he pays for all of the infrastructure costs that's local. However, the city or municipality or utility district, they've got off-site infrastructure costs, and they also have to maintain these lines that the developer puts in. When you pay that impact fee, your system connects.
So you can see what's there. Again, I believe most of them are in here. I'm up to actually 118 in this one. So there's just a lot of really good information here. Okay, so we encourage you to kind of supplement your learning with some of these videos to help you really understand what it is that we're talking about. And we're going to get to some sections, especially next semester, where we're talking about concrete footings. And we can't pour concrete in front of you, but you can watch these things and see exactly what we're talking about when we refer to formwork and steps and footings and that type of thing. So they're a really great resource for you. So that's the other part of the workbook. Again, the videos are available here under Essential Craftsman, but there's also links to it straight from your workbook. The thing about this link here is if they add more videos to it, you're going to go right to the website and get them. If you're doing it out of the workbook, I'm not going to change the workbook every time they add a new video. So it may be a little more current here, but there's 118 of them to watch first before you get to that point. So I think you'll be fine. Okay, so we kind of really went off on a tangent here, but we did cover a bunch of Blackboard and course policy stuff, so we've kind of dealt with those. Let's see what's next in our PowerPoint. The construction calculator. We will refer to this often, and Denise and I have these calculators. They are it's a calculator that's really built and made for the construction industry. They're excellent. And if you were on campus and we were actually attending in person, we would actually be giving you one. We wouldn't be giving you one. You'd be purchasing one as part of your material fees. Unfortunately, we can't do that now because, of course, you're not on campus. Let me go to large. But this is what it looks like. And it's super handy. There's some really excellent features, and we'll talk a little bit more about why we would want to use it in the future. But what's particularly handy about these calculators is that if I have to calculate something that is 5 feet 7.5 inches, whoops, not that. Let me correct that. 5 feet 7 inches and a half, I actually get to put fractions into the calculator. That's pretty handy because if you have to do the calculation and convert into decimals, it gets a little bit messy. But what's even handier is I can take that and say, I would like to multiply 5 foot 7.5 inches times 300 millimeters. So I'm multiplying inches with fractions times millimeters, and I'm going to end up with an answer in square feet. But if I'd like to turn that into square meters, I can do that quite easily. Okay, so there's a lot that this calculator can do for you, and we really enjoy being able to give it to our students as part of their material fees. Unfortunately, COVID's prevented that. So prior to you prior to COVID, you would actually have that. The next best option here is you can actually go and download the app. Now, you haven't prepaid for this thing already, but you can actually go to the website, and the company's called calculated.com. And if you go into that app or go into that website, you look for the Construction Master Pro app, and there's links to both the App Store and Google Play. I think it's about a third the cost of what you would pay to actually buy the calculator. So it's a better deal for you. And with most of us, our smartphones are just as big as this calculator would be. So it's a really nice thing to do. It's about $25, I think, Colton. You'd have to click the links to be sure, depending on which system you have. But it's around $70 to $75 to buy the calculator. So this is maybe a bit better of a deal. So we're going to encourage you to look into buying this calculator and putting it on your phone, because we do a lot of metric and imperial conversions. Our industry requires us to do that. Okay. You all know how to use a calculator. I've just shown you some of the features. And there is a web link for it where you can actually go online, and it'll actually explain to you some of the features of the calculator. Okay, so it's well worth your the few dollars that it takes to buy it, because we're not always going to we're going to require you guys to be able to be literate in metric and imperial units. Now, we have a big mix of students here. Some of you are in countries where you might not use imperial units. You might only use metric. You might never have understood what feet and inches are. Some of you only understand what feet and inches are and don't understand metric calculations. When you leave this program, you had better be able to work in both units equally. Okay, and the reason why is that our industry, although we're in Canada, and although Canada is officially a metric country, you are every single day going to find drawings and specifications that are still written in imperial units. So we need you to be able to work in both. This calculator is really valuable for being able to make those changes quickly. Okay, so we're encouraging you to get them. If you don't, that's still your option. But you'll have to be then, if you don't have the calculator, let me go back. If you don't have the calculator, then you're going to have to figure out that 1 foot 8 inches, 1 foot 8.5 inches is actually 1.708 feet in a decimal format. Okay, so you're going to have to do the math to calculate that in order to use things like Excel for doing your calculations. You won't be able to type in 1 foot 8.5 inches into Excel. If you need to, you can type it into your calculator and then press feet, and it'll convert your fractions into a decimal form and make your work a lot easier to do. So it's really worth your buying it. Okay, what's next? I told you I would talk to you about those standard pages that we showed you, and that's in the workbook as well under the resources. One of the things that happens in this industry is we have to standardize what we do. We have to follow a format, and one of the big sort of pluses of what we do is we teach you guys to follow a format. When you get into industry, You might find that your employer has a bit of a different format. However, they're going to have a format, and we want you guys to follow a format. So we have some pages. We're not there yet. We don't need you to print anything out yet. But when it comes to you having to, get the information for these standard format pages, those are there, and it's in your workbook. Sorry, it's in the first year workbook, and it's under resources, and it is estimate sheet masters. And these are the standard pages that when we get to those sections, we'll ask you to print them. And if you're going to do your work by hand, you only do work on these standard sheets. Okay, so when it comes time for you to do that, these are where you'll get that information. These are where you get your standardized forms from. Okay, Denise, we're an hour in. Should we take a break and come back in 10 minutes or so, and we can carry on with the rest of this?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, guys, it's 12. It's just, let's say it's 12:30 now. At 12:40, we'll come back and we'll finish up our lecture. Okay, we're not going to be the full 2 hours today, I don't think. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, guys and girls, I'm back. Yeah, Denise and I were just discussing we're really not happy with this whole Adobe situation. We would have hoped that Adobe would have been installed on your computers. You wouldn't have to go through this whole process, but it is a process, and we'll have to get through it. Denise, maybe you can put up the IT email address for them to send if they need help. So we don't want to burn up too much time in our class trying to get this to go, but and again, you don't have to have this workbook for now, but after class you can get this thing downloaded and maybe get get everything going afterwards. Okay, and if you need help, IT is really good at helping out. They're probably swamped right now, so be patient with them, but they are very good at helping you out. Okay, there is a course outline on Blackboard, and it's in that course outline section. There's a link to it. I don't really want to go through every detail, but I do want to talk about some of the highlights. And as we just talked about, imperial and metric system are important. We're going to have to be able to work in both. The course you're taking now is a requirement for the next semester, for the winter term. The construction students will be taking Civil 1229, and the civil students will be taking Civil 1223. So when we've talked before about how our first term is common, everybody takes the same courses, you can see this is one of those ones that does change in the second term. In the second term, Civil 1229 and Civil 1223 are for the construction and civil programs. Okay, but either way, you don't get into either one of those unless you pass this class. This is a prerequisite for that term. And what are we going to cover this term? We're going to cover basic estimating math. We're going to go through a whole unit on some of the math that you'll need to use. For some of you, that might be just simple review and a piece of cake. Others, it's going to be a bit more work. We're going to cover basic math. Then we're going to get into and basically everything we're doing is earthwork of some form. We're going to get into calculations of cut and fill when we want to regrade a site. We're going to talk about earthwork in larger formats, so large earth fill projects or large excavation projects. And we're going to talk about how do we excavate when we have different types of soil, when we have different materials below the ground. Okay, that CIS is on Blackboard, and I showed you where it is in course outline. You can click the link and it'll take you to it on Blackboard. We don't have to go through all the details on it. So how do we evaluate you? Assignments. Most of the work and most of the learning you're going to do happens in the assignments. And there's going to be a bunch. There's probably 14 or 15 assignments. Work it out. We're here for 14 weeks. That's about one a week. And you're going to learn most of what you're going to learn by doing the assignments. Okay. We also have quizzes and tests, and I'll show you how they all come together. But I want you guys to understand the work happens in the assignments. You do the assignments to be able to pass the tests and the quizzes. We put most of the emphasis of our marking on tests and quizzes. But the real work happens in the assignments, and that's going to be the key. Okay, so you have to stay on top of your assignments throughout the semester. When we have quizzes and tests and exams, I always clarify this. I say closed or open book quizzes will be conducted on a regular basis. I always say closed or open just in case, but I can tell you I've been doing it for 15 years now, and we've never had a closed book test in any of our first year classes. In my first year classes, I can't speak for other teachers. Okay, now during these times when you're remote learning and we're doing this online, you must have your laptop camera running in a test or quiz. Okay, and that's non-negotiable. You have to be able to do. You have to do that. How do we weight the evaluations? So assignments, they're worth 20% of your grade. The quizzes are also worth 20%, but the tests are worth 60. There's going to be 3 tests, that's 20% each. So look at that. We let you, when it comes to assignments, let's face it, you could be working with a partner, you could be, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you could be working with someone, working together with someone, completing your assignments. You could, in theory, be not doing the work. You could, in theory, have a friend who you're sitting down with, you show them the assignment, they do all the work, you take it, you put your name on it and hand it in. And you could do really well on all the assignments, and if you do, and if you didn't do the work, you'll get 20%. But if you didn't do the work, the chances are you're not going to do very well on the quizzes or the tests, and that's 80% of your mark. Quizzes and tests are 80% of your grade. So if you don't put in the work, if you sort of cheat your way through the assignments, you will definitely not do well on the quizzes and tests. Okay? So you need to be aware of that. And I know it, when you know, at first glance, you say, well, that doesn't look fair. It actually is really fair because it's the way it should be. Okay? I don't mind you working with other people on assignments. And we're going to get to a point where we're going to actually ask you to submit your work in partners. We're going to get to a point where we're going to say, this is a good, you know, here's a good assignment for you to submit in partners. 2 people submit the work, you put both names on it, and you both get credit for the work. Okay, so we encourage that. Now, the first few assignments, it's really better that you do them on your own because it's the math assignments, and you want to be able to be confident in your math abilities, and we want to know that you did that work. But we will get to a point, and we'll talk to you about it, where we would encourage you to work in a partner situation. That being said, there's always some students who take advantage of that situation, and we always end up with scenarios where a student says, well, so-and-so just put his name on the work. He didn't actually do anything. I did all the work. That he or she didn't actually do any work at all. We don't worry too much about that because when these quizzes and tests happen and 80% of the grade, we can quickly tell who was doing the work and who wasn't. Okay. The teaching and learning plan, that's on Blackboard, and I'm going to show you what that is and how you get to it in a second here. So in Blackboard, under course information, that's where you have the link to the course outline, and that's where the TLP, or the teaching and learning plan, is held. And again, this is a downloadable file, so I'll put it on my desktop. And you're going to need Adobe to open it. The teaching and learning plan just kind of outlines a little bit of what we just covered. Denise and I, our names and contact information is in here. The evaluations, you can see 20% for quizzes, 20% for assignments, 60% for tests. And this is what our semester looks like. We missed September 6th for Labor Day. Here we are on September 8th. We're working on the introductory portion. So the first 2 classes are going to be introduction, and then we're jumping right into basic estimating math. Then we jump into cut and fill up to week 8. Week 9, we start into earthwork. And in the last 2 weeks of the semester, we'll pick up multi-strata excavation. So you can see 1, 2, 3 tests. At this point in time, we did make a bit of a change, so there actually aren't 9 quizzes. It looks like there's going to be 7. But let's just sort of look through. Week 1 is our intro. Starting in week 3, we have a quiz. Next week, we have a quiz. Actually, we have a quiz and a couple of assignments. Quiz and an assignment. Next week, we have a test. Then we're learning some more. We've got our Thanksgiving holiday here. Assignments and quiz. Assignments and quiz. assignment and test. Okay, next thing we know, we've got some assignments due. So we're going to have a pretty full semester. And you're going to be doing work throughout the semester, either assignments, quizzes, and tests, virtually every single week. So you, excuse me, you need to stay on top of it, and you need to stay current. If you miss an assignment, you're missing something. If you finish an assignment and you're not going to be able to hand it in on time, as Mr. Dolch talked about yesterday, you have two choices. You can submit it late and take the penalty, or in some cases, some students will say, you know what, just put my name on your work, or someone else, give me your work, I'm going to put my name on it and hand it in because I couldn't get it done on time. It's far better for you to say, I'm going to hand this in late, and I'm going to do the work and take the penalty. If I would have had 80%, maybe you get 40%, but that's still 40%. If you take someone else's work and submit it as your own, and we catch you cheating, you end up with a 0, and you end up in a pretty uncomfortable situation when it comes to your academic record. Okay, so you can see there's a lot going on here. If you're going to miss a date, it's still worth your while to do the work and submit it late. We kind of have a policy here. The policy is this: we will accept late submissions until we have marked the work and sent it back to the class. So if you had an assignment due today on Wednesday and everybody hands it in, you could hand it in tomorrow, you can hand it in Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If on Monday we submitted all the work, all the marked work to all the rest of the class, at that point in time you can't submit it anymore. Okay, but it's still worth your while to get the half grade if that's what it takes. The only reason why I say that is because you've still done the work and you're benefiting from doing the work, not so much from getting the marks. Okay. Back to our PowerPoint. Where are we here? So that's the TLP. Again, you can download and keep a copy of that. All right. Please note, assignments are due at the beginning of class on the due date. Assignment due dates will be issued with the assignment. So you're going to know when we give you the assignment when it's due. And you're also going to probably see in our announcements, we're going to make mention, A7 due at start of class Wednesday. And you'll be able to determine that. I always say this: late assignments are awarded a bonus of 50% of the earned grade. That seems a bit contradictory, doesn't it? But from what we just learned, in our industry, what is a late submission worth? Anybody? Nothing. So what we're looking at is saying, okay, because you're in school, we're going to give you a bonus of 50% more than you would have got if you did this in industry. I kind of look at it that way rather than a penalty, although it's technically a penalty. But you know, in industry, that same scenario gets you 0. We're giving you a chance to get at least 50% of the grade that you would have gotten. Okay, and we will stick to this. If you're going to be absent, it is your responsibility to let us know prior to the test. Okay, we have students sometimes showing up and saying, oh, I missed the test last week because I was sick. Well, it's too late. If you had told us before the test that you were sick and you gave us a heads up, then we would have made provisions for you to be able to write that test. But if you don't tell us before the test or quiz and come in afterwards, and now if you came in 5 minutes after and say, I've been in a car accident, that's a different story. But if you are going to be unavailable, you have to tell us ahead of time. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what our industry looks at. Okay, and there are 2 organizations that we are primarily steering you towards membership in, and that's a group called OASET, the Ontario Association of Certified Engineering Technicians and Technologists. And for those in the estimating industry, CIQS is the Canadian Institute of Quantity Surveyors. And so what I want to just talk about is those two groups where you can get professional accreditation with. Let's look at their code of ethics. Their code of ethics says things like act with integrity towards clients, maintain confidentiality, avoid conflicts of interest, conduct themselves with fairness, courtesy, good faith, and give honest and fair professional comment, report to the appropriate agencies any illegal or unethical professional decisions or practices by fellow members. CIQS says kind of the same thing. A member will always act with fairness and loyalty, with devotion to high ideals of personal honor and integrity, will only sign work done by him or her under their personal and direct supervision, and will promote the honor and integrity of the profession. I'm saying this because I want you guys to understand that when we get very, very harsh with you on cheating situations, what we call academic misconduct, we are doing that because we're sending you into an industry that has the same code of ethics that we're applying to you right now. And so if you get into the habit of getting through some of this work by possibly, we're going to call it cheating, we're in a situation where that kind of activity in industry is going to put you in a position where you could be disbarred from these associations, and it could put you into legal situations where you could be sued. Okay, so we just kind of want to establish on day one that cheating of any type is not acceptable. It's not acceptable through your 2 or 3 years here, and it's not going to be acceptable in industry. And we want you to get off on the right foot. Okay, we want you to start off on the right foot here. So, and again, I just want you to understand, we're not doing it just because we want to do it. We're doing it because the industries that we are a part of, Denise and I are both members of OASET. I'm a member of the CIQS. And so those industries kind of trust us to say, train these students in a way that we'll be able to accept them when they finish school. And so we need to give you this same level of a code of ethics. Okay? I know sometimes we sound hard-nosed about these things, but it is a reason for it. And that's my slide. Let me close that. I'll save that. Yes. Where are we at, Denise? It's 5 to 1. I've been talking for a long time. Maybe we should stop a little early today and give these guys a chance to get their Adobes downloaded and their workbooks downloaded and get prepared for next Monday's class.
Yeah, that sounds good. Just to reiterate, if you have issues with Adobe Acrobat, you've gone through and you've tried the apps anywhere and it's still not working, you need to contact the IT service desk. Okay? They are the people that the college employs to help us with these technical issues. So send an email, itservicedesk@niagaracollege.ca, state your name, your student number, the program you're in, provide your phone number so that they can contact you, and a specific issue that you're experiencing. Okay, that's the only way these issues are going to get resolved. Dino and I know a couple of ways to do it. Other than that, that's our extent of IT help. Okay, so if you are still having issues with it, you have to contact IT service desk. Spencer, I do not believe there is a quiz on Monday in estimating.
Does the TLP show that, maybe?
I don't think so. Right, and
Nope.
Yeah, no quiz week 2. Week 3, there's a quiz. So keep in mind, also similar to AutoCAD, the estimating course, we have this teaching and learning plan that shows a week-by-week schedule. Okay? We will also be utilizing the calendar to show upcoming dates. But remember, we don't like the questions, so what are we doing this week? Because we provide it in announcements, and it's also provided in this teaching and learning plan. So make sure that you have a look at those two locations first before you ask us, so what are we doing this week? Is it important? Okay? We don't really like those questions. Dylan is asking the self-study technical math. When do you want us to start that and have it completed by? So the self-study math is you do that in your own time, and it's to help you prepare or to, reinforce some of the math that we do. That is not marked, the technical math. Only assignments are marked that are on here. So the self-study guide is just that. It's a self-study guide to help you with math problems. Did you want to add any on that?
No, and sorry, I shouldn't say no, I should say yes. The other thing is that not all, and I think you answered this, Denise, not all the assignments that you do this year are going to be marked for and are going to contribute to your final grade. You can see the ones that are bold, A3, A7, A8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We're going to mark those, and those are going to count towards your grade. Some of these others, we're still going to do the assignment. You're going to submit the assignment, and Denise and I will look them over and give you comments on them. And in some cases, we will run through the marking for them, but they're not going to count towards your final grade. Okay? Now, the tendency is to say, oh, well, I'm not doing those. I'll just do the ones that you're marking. That's your choice, and you won't get penalized for not submitting them. However, A1 and 2 are the build-up to A3. If you are so confident with your math abilities that you don't need to do, and you look them over, if you don't need to do A1 and 2, and you just submit A3, we're okay with that. However, we're doing A1 and 2 so that you can do A3. Okay, and the right way to make this work is for you to do the assignments that build up to the ones that get graded. But there's always, every year, there's a student or two who says, I'm really confident with this. I'm good. Is it okay if I don't submit assignments 5 and 6 because I really know this work? That's your choice, and we won't criticize you for that. However, we're telling you that the right way to do it is to do each assignment, and then the ones that get graded are the ones that are really going to be important to your final mark. But yeah, let's get all these Adobe issues and everything else solved. I don't want to have next Monday's class be us sitting here asking questions on how to download the file. I really want you guys to come into next Monday's class with the workbook and the TLP and everything finished and ready to go.
So Dino, can you also show them the link in My Grades where the course policy is, where to show, you can see if you've uploaded the course policy, I believe in My Grades. If you go to tools right now, Dino?
In this view though, Denise?
Yeah.
I got to be out of the student preview, right?
No, I don't think so. Just try that. Try that tools. And then go to My Grades. And, you know what? We just have to make that column available. Let me make the column available, and then we'll refresh that.
And so someone, Dylan, you had a question about the self-study math. Here's the modules here. This is where you'd see the marking. And again, that is entirely your responsibility. So whenever you want to start it is fine. Whenever you want to finish it is fine. If you want to do half of it and not the other half, that's okay too. So we're not, I'm giving you Blackboard as a way for you to sort of evaluate, did I do this right or did I do it wrong? But those marks are not going to count for anything. But I think in the end, those exercises are just good for you to get the practice in doing the math. That's really what we're trying to do. The formulas are also a really handy feature in there to be able to have a resource where all these math formulas are quick and easy to find. That's the other benefit of that thing. So you can see Denise already put this in here, the course policy upload. If you've done it, it'll show up here. And once that's done, you've satisfied the need to upload it.
Yeah, so when I notice a couple of people are asking me to check if I received the course policy upload. So what you can do now that I've made that column available, you can go into this tools, go into my grades, and you will see a little icon in there that shows that if you have submitted it, it will show that you submitted the course policy. Okay, it's a little icon. I believe it's yellow with an exclamation mark, and that shows you the file that you actually submitted. And if you're wondering if you actually submitted the correct file, you can click on the link and it will show you what you actually submitted.
Okay, if there are no other questions, and guys, let me just say we've had a lot of activity in the chat here, which is really good. Denise and I have found this works extremely well for us. I'm doing a lot of this lecturing portion, but Denise is present and is dealing with a lot of your questions. There are well over 100 questions that came up in the chat today, with 60 some odd, or maybe eventually a full class, 79 of you in here. Pretty much impossible for one of us to do it on our own. So you guys are doing a good job of asking questions and paying attention. I think it's going well so far. So let's keep this up, and we'll see you guys on Monday at 10:30 in the morning. Yes, Mohammed.
Hi, about the signature, what's supposed to look like?
What does what look like?
Yeah, I mean, what's the signature supposed to look like?
The signature. Oh, you just print your name.
Oh, just my name? Okay.
Yep. As long as we know that you signed it and submitted it, that's good enough. Okay, thanks so much for being here, guys. Thanks for your attention, and we'll see you all on Monday.